Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are around the world. We are here for another episode of Q&A, except this one is going to be very, very different to what we normally do. So we're going to kick this one off in 2 minutes, guys. So let us know if you're coming into this one live. I have put the link above there for authorizing RESTREAM if you haven't already. And like I said, this is going to be a little bit different as a Q&A. I've decided to stream this across everywhere just for a little bit of fun. All right, so get into the comments there if you're watching on live. We're going to get started in 2 minutes. And who we got? Tezza, what's going on, mate? Lovely to have your company in here, my brother. Oh, I love that so much, that photo, Tez. You're looking sharp as attack, mate. Hello, Kenny. What's going on, buddy? I hope you're well. I hope you've had a beautiful day, Kenny. Good morning, Nicky boy. How are you, my friend, my legend? Hello, Claire. Still hanging in there. So good. All right, we've got a morning here from Facebook user. Whoever you are, go and click that link there, right there above. Right there above. Guys, we're going to be getting started in 1 minute. So here's what we're going to do a little bit differently. Oh, we got royalty in here. Jesus. Michelle Follette, hello. Lovely to have your company. I feel very special when you come on, Michelle. JC Boy, what's going on, mate? I hope you're well. If I haven't said it enough, Jace, so proud of you, brother. Coach Ez, how are you, mate? Pam's here as well. Hello, Pam. We're starting in 30 seconds, guys. Good evening. Another one. You need to authorize StreamYard. I hate not knowing who it is. Who else we got? Good morning, Mikey Bergman, my beautiful Canadian brother. What's going on, mate? Yeah, I just nearly fell off my seat, Ez. Ash Sonta, what's going on, girlfriend? I hope you're good. Sammy's in here as well. Sammy, haven't you had enough of me? We just got off a chat with the UK girls, a really cool huddle. We had about 8 girls on there. I love you, ladies. And again, thanks for being part of our academy. You guys are so freaking cool. All right, here's what we're going to do differently today. I'm streaming this across everywhere just because I thought, well, let's do something different to mix it up as much as for you guys, for myself. I am going to do a 30 in 30. So what we usually do is we usually choose 10 questions, and we answer the questions with a level of detail, okay? However, what I've done is prepared 30 very common questions, and I'm going to answer them in 30 minutes or less. So we're going to mix it up a little bit. So if you're here to look for beautiful, deep, convoluted answers, this isn't going to be the podcast for you, or rather the Q&A for you. Hello, Troy boy. How are you, mate? Instead, I'm going to put 30 minutes on the clock, and I'm going to answer 30 questions in quick fire format. So forgive me if I'm rather frank in my answers, because if I constantly get a question which is like, this question again, I'm just going to answer it in almost like a, dude, shut the fuck up, do this instead. Okay, does that sound fair? Let me know if you're ready to go in the comments, guys. Give me some encouragement, because I'm going to be talking for 30 minutes straight, and it's going to be value-packed. I'm going to get through as many of these as I can. All right, on the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's go, guys. How much fat should I be having per day? Okay, it really doesn't matter. What you should be worrying about is your total daily calories, and then once you've done that, you worry about your protein. Fat is important for your hormones, but as long as you're eating a varied and balanced diet, you do not need to be measuring your daily fat through MyFitnessPal. You just need to hit your calories and the protein, and that's it. Yes, Tina, you've done it. All right, next up. When should I be incorporating running into my weight loss program? Well, I would suggest that, as you guys know, running or cardio is not part of our trifecta system. What you should instead be doing is waiting until you're not banging down on your joints, your ankles, your knees, your hips, and your back with the extra weight. So what you should do is go about perhaps the first 3 to 6 months of being any transformation program should be a weight loss component. From there, you can decide what is more important to you. Do you really want to build out some muscle? Do you want to have a performance goal? Have you got a goal to run a marathon? Then we can bring in some running. But you don't want to be running with 10 to 15 kilos of excess weight, because that's only going to exacerbate the problem. Should I take BCAAs? No. If you have a diet that is varied and adequate in enough protein, you do not need any BCAA supplementation, okay? You'll see guys walking around the gym with their shaker bottles. Oh, I got the BCAAs, and I just think to myself, what a waste of money. There's no evidence to suggest they benefit you in any way. Stop taking them. Should I take creatine? The exact opposite answer. Yes, you should definitely take creatine. When you are a man or a woman and you're training in a gym, I do believe you should be taking creatine. Hello, Kath. Creatine is the most studied supplement on the planet, and it's been shown time and time again to be not only very good and effective at working, to bring about improvements in strength, muscle, etc., but actually very safe and very cheap. And it's probably why it doesn't get that much hype, is because it's $20-30, which will last you about 3 months, and that's it. You do not need to be buying all these different types of creatine. You need the cheapest creatine possible, and you need to take 5 grams a day with some water at the start of the day, and you'll top up your body creatine reserves, and that's all you need to think about. By the way, if you're wondering what is the cheapest form of creatine, it's called creatine monohydrate. It sounds very boring. It tastes very boring. It works. What is better for weight loss, carnivore or keto? This is a loaded question because I hate both of them, but the reality is the thing that is better for weight loss is the style that allows you to do 2 things. What are they? Hit your calorie target, hit your protein target. The problem with some diets, like for example, the vegetarian style of eating, I have nothing against it. It will definitely help you to hit your calorie target. You will struggle, unless your knowledge is really good, to hit your protein target, which is going to mean that you're probably going to lose weight, but you're also going to lose muscle, and that's not a good thing. Of course, that's a generalization. What is the problem with the carnivore diet? There's nothing inherently wrong with it, so to speak, other than meat products typically are higher in fat, therefore higher in calories, therefore means that your overall food volume would need to be less to stay under your calorie target. Does that make sense? So the best diet for you is actually the one you can stick to, which is why in Better Body Academy, we don't have a diet. We have a formula. The formula is underpinned by the principle, which is get your calories right, get your protein right, the weight comes off regardless of what diet you have. Okay, how often should I increase weights I lift at the gym? Well, following the principle of progressive overload, you should try to increase weights all of the time, or at least try to increase the difficulty of the movements that you're doing. So you might not increase the weight necessarily, but you could slow down the tempo of the movement. I'll give you an example with a bench press. I could be repping on a 2-1-2 type tempo, or I could really slow down this decline, really to make it feel. So even though I'm not increasing the weight, so to speak, I'm increasing the difficulty. Does that make sense? So probably a better way to clarify the question is that you should always be looking to make sessions more difficult on a week-to-week or a bi-weekly basis. If you feel like you're just going to the gym and going through the motions, you're just not going to see enough progress, because of the fact that what actually resistance training does is it provides a challenge to your body. And then what you're saying is that, okay, body, you need to adapt to this resistance. Otherwise, the weight's going to squash you, as an example. So if you can't get out of a squat, well, guess what? What happens? You fail. And so the point is, we're trying to subject our body to a resistance that is invoking an adaptation. Now, this is the reason why you can't compare weights between different people, because someone who is stronger, bigger, is going to be able to lift more resistance than someone who's smaller, leaner, whatever the reasoning is. So you just got to stop comparing weights and look after yourself. How do you suggest warming up to avoid injury? 3 steps. Number 1, a very short, moderate amount of cardio, such as riding, rowing, walking, anything that gets the blood moving for 3 to 5 minutes. Number 2, what we call dynamic stretching. Whenever I say dynamic stretching, I want you to think of arm circles. Things that take the joint, in this case the shoulder, through a full range of motion. Okay? So we could do arm circles, we could do neck circles, we could do hip circles, we could do leg circles, leg swings, arm swings, anything that limbers you up. That's step 2. So we've got moderate little bit of cardio just to warm you up. Number 2, we want to take the joints through some sort of rotation so you're not doing it the first time. The third step is whatever you're about to lift, for example, a squat, you want to build up to that weight. You don't want the first squat you do to be the heavy squat that you do. You want to do what are called sub-maximal sets. So if you were lifting 50 kilos as your target squat weight, I would first squat with the bar, which is going to be 20 kilos. I might add on maybe 10 kilos either side, which is 30. I might do that once or twice. And once I feel limbered up enough that I'm not creaking on the way down, then we can go to our working weight. How do you know if it's a good protein bar or not? Good question. The guideline is really 200 grams, 20 grams of protein. So you want the ratio of the protein to the calories to be almost like 10%. Even though they're calories versus grams, you want them to be about 10%. So for example, if a protein bar is really small and it is 100 calories and it is 10 grams of protein, that's the same as eating 2 of those and a bar that is 200 calories and 20 grams of protein. Where I think you want to avoid is bars that are 400 grams of protein, 350 grams of protein, 400 calories, 350 calories, but they're 20 grams of protein. These are typically marketed as energy bars, which means they've been stuffed with either oils or nuts or something like that, which is just adding extra calories, which defeats the purpose of having the bar. You might as well have a Snickers. So you'd be better to work with that ratio of 220, 110, 150, and 15 calories to protein. Does that make sense, guys? I'm in a calorie deficit. Why am I not losing weight? It depends on what level of time you're talking about here. But if you're not losing weight, you're not in a calorie deficit. So I'm in a calorie deficit. I'm not losing weight. I want you to put it the other way. I'm not losing weight. That's because you're not in a calorie deficit. That doesn't make you a bad person. A lot of people say, oh man, they get really attached. No, but I'm tracking with MyFitnessPal. Look to what the body is telling you. If the body is saying to you, you're not losing weight, that's because you're not in a calorie deficit and something needs to change. Either the calories need to go up on the outside or the calories need to come down on the inside. And I'm simplifying things a bit, but that's the truth. How do I know why is my weight staying the same, but my waist circumference is coming in? Typically, that's because you're more hydrated. It could be that you're measuring at 2 different circumstances. So, for example, you've actually lost weight, but you've measured at different times. So, for example, your belly's full in one or you haven't been to the toilet in one. That would be an example. It could be that you're putting on muscle. And so your scale weight, you have to remember, is a mix of different things, not just body fat. Okay? If you are losing circumferences around waist or hip, that means you're losing fat. Okay, how much avocado should I eat? As long as it fits your calories, it doesn't matter. Are low-carb beers actually healthy or better? Healthy depends on their alcohol content. What I would say is low-carb beers are generally better if they are also low-calorie. Does that make sense? So as an example, you could have the two things that make up the predominant calories in a beer are carbohydrate and alcohol. So you could very much have a low carb beer that is 7% alcohol, which would mean the overall calories would be higher. You could have a high carb beer that is low alcohol, which means the overall calories could be lower. But they're typically exceptions. For the most part, most low carb beers are also low calorie beers and therefore a better choice. Do you still train if you are feeling unmotivated? Yep, most definitely. A simple reason is you don't need to feel motivated to do things. If you develop the discipline, you can just do them anyway. And more often than not, results are about doing what you don't feel like. And if you can develop the tact of doing what you don't feel like, that's when you start to progress. Should I train through an injury? No, definitely not. You should stop. You should stop until you've got a grip of what the actual problem is. Is deadlifting dangerous if I am new to the gym? There is no dangerous movements. There is only dangerous form. So if something feels awkward when you're lifting it, it's not that a deadlift is inherently dangerous. It's that you haven't developed the skill yet to make that lifting both safe and fluent. Does that make sense? So what we need to do is get some help off either a PT or some more experienced people in the gym to help you correct your form to make sure the movements provided is being done safely. And then it's definitely not a dangerous movement. A lot of people say, I want to avoid deadlifts because it causes back injuries. Actually, a lot of people with back injuries should be deadlifting. Next one. How do you develop bigger biceps? Do more bicep training. Generally speaking, the way that you develop any lagging area is to put more volume through it or heavier weights or some extra stuff through it that increases the adaptation that it's happening. So for example, if you're complaining about your biceps, but you train biceps once a week, that's the reason why. I would train biceps every other session. Does that make sense? You could train biceps 3 to 4 times a week at the end of your sessions with 2 extra exercises and you would see some development. What's the most important gym concept to get right? That would be, in my opinion, form is more important than weight. The reason that most people progress is because they've got the form down pat. As an example, a squat is a really difficult movement to do, especially for a beginner. It's taken me years and years and years, and still I don't think my squat is amazing form. So once you get the form right and the form down pat, then you can safely build upon with higher weights. But the problem is when you just look at someone else and you try to compete with them and stop worrying about yourself, your form goes out the window. That's where you get injured. And because your form's crappy, the mechanics of that movement stop you from actually progressing. So you're better to get the form right first. Is rice healthy? Depends on what you mean healthy. I wouldn't say it's unhealthy. What I would say is eating a lot of rice can contribute a lot of calories. That doesn't make it unhealthy. Relative to other forms of rice, you could say that brown rice and black rice are better options, but that doesn't mean that rice is unhealthy. Eating rice in large quantities contributes a fair amount of calories. So for example, a lot of people talked about how much sushi they eat as a healthy alternative, but they're eating a lot of easily digestible white rice in large quantities, often with sugar added, and it can contribute a lot of calories. So it's not that it's bad or unhealthy, it's that it needs to form or be counted as part of your daily calorie allowance. Does that make sense? Is having 1 to 2 lattes a day on full cream milk a problem? No, not at all. Have as much milk as you want. Just understand that the role of milk, if we go back to the cow, is to fatten up a calf, and it tends to do the same thing to humans. And this is because it's very highly condensed calories, the full cream version. So if you're talking about this from a health perspective, I think it's completely fine. If you talk about it from a I want to lose weight perspective, you're far better to make a choice to have either skim milk, no milk, almond milk that's unsweetened. They're probably the 3 best options. I should draw your attention to the fact that people are choosing oat milk for weight reasons, but actually quite often oat milk's worse than cow's milk, actually. We're about halfway through the timing, and I think I'm way ahead of time. What is better, high reps or low reps in the gym? Really depends on what you're trying to evoke. Remember, we're going into the gym to try to get an adaptation. So if you're wanting to target more muscular endurance for whatever reason it might be in your life, that you want to be able to last longer, no kind of insinuation there, then obviously trying with higher reps would be a benefit. In terms of lower reps, I think that's where we need to think about. What we've seen is from the research that most research points to the fact that doing any rep count between 8 reps and 20 reps really can contribute to muscular growth if the exercise is taken to near failure. In other words, you're not leaving a bunch of reps in the tank. You're not just going through the motions. The exception, or what falls outside of that, would be specifically quite low reps of the range of 2 to 6 as an example. When you're training in that function, there are some muscle building benefits, but you're predominantly training strength to get stronger. So if you want to get stronger without necessarily putting on a bunch of extra muscle, then of course what you can do is keep your reps down, lift as much weight as you possibly can do, but then don't do much hypertrophy training at the other end of the scale. Does that make sense? All right, how do I go about actually losing lower abdominal fat? This is such a common question. The truth is you can't target body fat. It sucks, I know. How good would it be to be able to just go to your pecs or your butt or your belly and just suck it off? You can't do that. What you have to do is create a position or an environment where your body is running out of petrol, termed a calorie deficit. If you're in a calorie deficit, what can happen is that you will start to lose total body fat percentage. The sucky bit is you can't choose where you lose it from. One of the things that we do notice is that you see guys particularly getting quite gaunt in the face because they lose fat here before they ever see a six-pack. And that's to do with genetics and your particular body type. However, if you remain in a calorie deficit for a long enough period of time, wherever the stubborn areas are, they will be lost. Now, I reckon I'm going to have some time left over at the end. So I see Griggsy has popped a comment in the question in the comments. If you've got any other questions, guys, and you're watching this live, I've got about 7 or 8 questions to go. Happy to answer any off-the-cuff comments or questions, okay? How do I go about losing? All right, now, is collagen protein powder an okay substitute for whey protein powder? It is not. The normal way that I would answer this question is that actually collagen's great if you want to improve your hair and nails. I'm not a collagen expert. What I do know is that it's not good for preserving muscle and helping with protein synthesis of skeletal muscle basis, okay? But the good doctor, Dr. Jenny Mansberg, who joined our podcast the other day, what she told us was that actually oral ingestion of marine-based collagen for the purpose of improving your skin and nails is useless. So not only is collagen not very good for muscle, it's actually not very good for doing it what we think it's going to actually do. Are pack salads okay? Yep, they certainly are. I survive off pack salads a lot of summer. You just need to be mindful. The thing that you've got to be thinking about when it comes to a pack salad in terms of the contents of the pack salad are 2 things. Fried added things such as croutons. The second thing is going to be the sauces. So for example, you will usually get this like whopping amount of Caesar in your pack salad. If you just love a Caesar, have a fucking Caesar, right? But just don't use all of the sauce because you've got all the lettuce, you've got all the things that are in the Caesar and it's fine, but then you double the calories with the sauce. So you just reduce the sauce amount. You have your Caesar, but not with all the extra calories. Does this make sense? Okay, what's the difference between fresh and frozen vegetables? One is colder than the other. Apart from that, nothing. If cooking fresh vegetables is a pain in the ass versus getting a microwave packet and throwing it in 2 minutes, done, bang, and you're happy to do that with your family, that is as equally nutritious. What's the actual problem caused by high blood pressure? Sorry, high blood sugar. I want you to think about it like this. In the stages of diabetes where your blood is becoming thicker with sugar, it's almost becoming like honey as a consistency. So what do you think that's going to do to your circulation if you've got small blood vessels with a viscous liquid trying to get through them because it's got all this sugar in it? Now, obviously, it's not quite as thick as honey, but for illustrative purposes, what's going to happen is that those muscles and tissues and organs that get the blood supply on the other side of those really thin arteries get starved of oxygen. This is the reason why you see people walking down the street or in the mobility scooters and you look at their ankles and they're bright red. Essentially what's happening is the tissue in their feet are dying because they're not getting enough oxygen and they're not getting enough nutrients because the blood is too viscous to actually get through to the stuff that needs it on the other side, which is why the end stages of diabetes are absolutely horrible. You know the most frustrating thing about diabetes? For the most part, type 2 is relatively controllable if you've got some decent health habits. I've got 4 questions to go and then we can answer some viewer questions. Pop them in there, guys, if you've got anything, and I'll answer all of them. When I do bench press, I feel like my shoulders are taking the load. Help. Beautiful question. Here's what you need to do. When you tuck onto the bench, you want to kind of go like this and tuck your shoulder blades in. This is the normal, and this is what most people do. They push like this, so they're getting a lot of this front delt coming into the movement. If you instead kind of tuck the shoulder blades like this, what do you notice naturally happens about the chest? Okay? Normal flat bench press, shoulder blades tucked, the chest comes to the front, which means when I push, it's the chest. You can see it here in this even with the jumper on, it's the chest that's doing the movement. So what you really need to do is tuck those shoulder blades in a little bit and just focus on squeezing with the chest instead of just pushing with the shoulders. Okay, is tap water actually bad? No, not in a developed country like Canada or like Australia or the UK. It's completely fine, and I think people are just fucking crazy. Does it matter if I have protein during my fast? No, it doesn't. But what if I break my fast? Nothing happens, right? Fasting is the most, in my opinion, overhyped thing in terms of how it works, but it's one of the most underhyped things in how beneficial it can actually be. The way it works is if you're used to grazing food all day from 6 o'clock till 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, that's a very large eating window for you to eat food. If all of a sudden you only eat between 12 and 8, as an example, or whenever your fast is, that's less time for you to eat the food. So you're generally going to eat less calories in a shorter period of time. And that's how fasting works to lose weight. That's it. So people say, oh, but what if I break my fast? Doesn't matter. If you start eating at 12 and you finish eating at 8, that's an 8-hour eating window. And if you have a protein shake at 8 o'clock in the morning, yeah, you're breaking your fast, but it doesn't matter. It just means that the 100 or 200 calories from that scoop of protein need to be counted towards your 8 hours of calories in this window here. Don't overthink it, guys. Don't worry about breaking your fast. What happens if I don't hit my protein target? Well, it will probably depend more so on what's happening with your total daily calories, but if you are restricting calories with the intention of losing weight, but you're not hitting your protein target, 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, you're going to be very hungry because protein is the most satiating of the nutrients. The other possibility, which is not desirable, is that your body's running out of petrol, right? Because you're in a calorie deficit. And now your body's saying, where do you want me to get the petrol from here, Jace? Okay, yes, I can use some body fat, but I might just grab some muscle and break down the protein from that while I'm here as well. If you have enough dietary protein, you lessen the likelihood that in a calorie deficit, you are going to break down muscle. This is why inside of Better Body Academy, we give you a target to hit, and you need to hit this target basically every day to upkeep enough protein to your body to turn over what you're already turning over so that you have spare protein reserves to make sure that you're not digging into muscular protein. Does that make sense? last question, and then we can do some user questions. Hit me in the comments, guys. What is better out of HIIT cardio and long form cardio? Better depends on what adaptation you're trying to actually get. If you're trying to get a performance adaptation, so for example, you want to increase your lactate threshold, which basically means the level to which you accumulate waste products in your blood by working at top speed. That sounds very complicated. But if you don't know what it means, then you're probably not trying to get that and it doesn't matter. Well, then HIIT training is going to be necessary. High intensity training where you're pushing the upper limits of your heartbeat. That said, if you're looking to lose weight, well, for the most part, most people are wanting to lose weight are carrying weight. And as I said, the top of this Q&A, you don't want to be carrying weight and then doing loads of intense activities which are banging down on your joints. So low slung cardio, if any form, is going to be the best form. And the best form is walking, at least to start. The way that you want to reduce body fat is dietary. Okay, 2 viewer questions. Let us know if you've got anything else. And I've nailed this, guys, with plenty of time to spare. Jakey says, hey, Jace, hope you're well. Is creatine beneficial for doing CrossFit and also a lot of long distance running? It'll be beneficial for the CrossFit. It won't be beneficial for the running. Okay? So the reason for it is that the system that uses creatine is exhausted within 20 to 30 seconds, basically. So creatine supplementation is to increase the amount of a product that you already have naturally, creatine. And so what supplementation does is top it up a little bit. For example, you might be able to get 10 reps out in 30 seconds of a bench press, but with a little bit more of that base level creatine system through supplementation, you're able to get out a couple of extra reps, hence the growth. In terms of long distance running, no benefit because it's not using that system. The body's not using that system. It would be exhausted within 30 seconds. The system that's used in long form events is going to be predominantly burning body fat, and then which is long, slow distance running. And then the secondary to that will be obviously the lactic acid system. So if you're doing some long distance running, you're going to know that lactate can be a benefit, can be a system. What's actually a proven supplement, Jakey, if you want to test it or at least look it up, is bicarb soda. Actually, like table bicarb soda from the kitchen. And part of the reason or the suggestion is because it buffers the lactic acid. Okay, so that's one supplement that a lot of guys use. Final question from Roland, one of our clients. What is the best energy food that's low in calories for when you're ruining your sleep hours? The best energy food that's low in calories for when you're ruining your sleep hours. Okay, so dude, this is a tough one because the foods that we crave when we're low in energy, the reason we're getting the cravings is because we're tired. So the body's saying to me, give me something that's going to give me energy. Sugar, fat, caffeine, cocaine, amphetamine. It's trying to get those things, right? So the nature of your question, Roland, is almost like backwards. The reason is I'm going to say to you, well, a food that gives you more sustained energy. But that's not answering the body saying, but I want a Red Bull. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to be, I think the core issue here, which is really tough for you at the moment, Roland, as a client, is you run a business, you've got responsibilities, you're undersleeping. And that undersleeping is having an impact on your weight because you're naturally craving foods that are high energy, high calorie foods. Like that's a protective mechanism for your body to keep you awake, to keep you moving. So this is a very classic case, Roland, of you can deal with the symptom or you can deal with the root cause. Dealing with the symptom is sugar, fat, caffeine, cocaine, whatever. Dealing with the cause is the sleep. And this is the reason why a lot of guys put on weight, isn't it? It's because they're pushed pillar to post with family, career, different types of responsibilities, which sucks their time. And sleep is the thing that they see as the dispensable thing. And I do the same thing, man. Like I get it totally. The problem is that if you're not making up for that, it works like a credit card debt. So I want you to imagine, Roland, that you keep this up for 10, 20 years. Man, this debt needs to be paid back. And so what actually happens is you're accumulating fat, you're doing stress-induced oxidative damage to your body. Stress is, as a tool or a cause of disease is incredibly underestimated. Therefore, making management of stress a very big priority. Hence why, things like meditation have taken off, because people have connected the two together. That's probably not the answer that you want to hear, Rolls, but the truth is, bro, like that's actually what's going wrong. Like you need to deal with a lack of sleep, man, because you're going to be pushing shit uphill trying to correct something by dealing with the symptoms and not the root cause. All right, guys. Now, I went over here because I addressed some viewer questions, so that's not failing. Dudes, I hope this has been a little bit different. Let us know if you enjoyed this style of Q&A, and I can do them a little bit more regularly. Other than that, hope you all have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Friday afternoon or Thursday night, and we'll chat to you soon. Peace.